Hi, this is Christian with Forest of Varna Healing Arts and Yoga Bear Box. And we put out last week an image of the logo for Yoga Bear Box, which is the bear sitting in kind of a meditation position. And we put a saying under it that is, awareness is the zone. And we want to talk a little bit about, we want to work a little bit with the question of awareness. Let's talk about awareness in the body. How much of our body are we aware of? And in this case, I'm not talking about location, like are we aware of our feet or our arm or something like that. But let's talk about movement. How much of the movement, how many of the movements of our body are we aware of? And the answer is necessarily less than 1%. And the reason is this. As I'm talking to you, my conscious mind is on talking to you. Just to stand here requires hundreds of muscles to coordinate an action to keep me up in this position. If I were to turn and begin to walk in this direction, to do this, to coordinate all of this, many messages has to be sent from my brain down to my body. If I were to be aware of all of that, I wouldn't be able to continue talking to you. I'd have to say, wait, just a second, I'm going to move. I see, how do I turn? How do I tighten my psoas? How do I move my knee? So the body has a way of moving that is almost unconscious, and that's called sensory engrams. Sensory engrams are patterns that are held up in the brain, in the sensory part of the brain, are given over to the motor cortex and then sent down to the body to have a pattern that you can do a movement with. So all of your skills, from walking to, say, playing tennis or something like that, or acrobatics, all of these have to become sensory engrams in order for you to do them efficiently and accurately. How are sensory engrams built? They are built through feeling the way that we did it before. If we think of a movement like, for example, turning and beginning to walk, when I was an infant, I couldn't do that. I had to learn how to do that as a toddler. And the way I learned how to do that is by attempting to walk. And my body gave me information through the joints and the muscles, all the different receptors, kinesthetic receptors, and it told me, this is what you're doing now. If my brain registered that it was successful, then I would attempt to repeat it consciously, and I would do that over and over and over until that became the pattern. So it's through the sensory feeling of the movement that I developed the pattern in my brain of how to move. Then walking can become something that is unconscious. So now I can walk, I can turn, I can move without thinking about it. I can talk to you about this, or I can talk to you about something else without having to be conscious. Perfect. That works out well. However, here's the risk. What if when I learned how to walk, I learned how to walk in a way that is maladaptive? Say I learned how to walk with my shoulders hunched up, my chest caved in a sort of a jerky manner. For whatever reason, I learned how to walk that way. So then that becomes the unconscious pattern. And every time I turn to walk, I'm going to move in that direction. I'm not even going to be aware of it. As an adult, then I go to the doctor and I say, doctor, I have these headaches and I don't know why I have these headaches. And hopefully the doctor will say, well, maybe it's because your shoulders are up high. But I didn't even know that because I wasn't aware of that. In fact, all the people who know me would say, well, that's this guy and that's how he walks. We could tell him even in the dark that it's him because that's the pattern that he uses. In order to change the pattern, the first thing to do is to become aware of the pattern. So you have to then move backwards in your life and come to the place of feeling how you are setting up your movement. And there's three ways of doing that, at least three ways of doing it. One way is through getting structural body work. When you get structural body work, structural massage, your shoulders, your back, your legs are literally going to be changed. Your connective tissue, the position of it's going to be changed. So that when you get off the table and you begin to walk, you're going to get new sensory information. And that new sensory information is going to increase awareness. And with that increased awareness, you can change maladaptive patterns. So structural bodywork gives you awareness about your movement and helps you to change maladaptive patterns. Well, you can also do structural bodywork on yourself using, for example, the YogaTuneUp self-massage balls. You can use these balls to get into your connective tissue and do a session, change the way your shoulder sits in the socket or the way your hips are. And then when you get up from that session and start to walk, you're now aware of this movement and you start to build a new sensory engram. The other thing you can do is any of the somatic movement therapies, which include yoga, Feldenkrais, Alexander MoveNat, any of those will give you, they're built to give you a new awareness of how to move. And in the case of yoga, to stretch your connective tissue and to stretch your fascia.